In case you haven't heard, there's an all-new 10-station reloading press from Mark 7. It's called the Apex 10, and in this video, we're going to get hands-on with it. Gavin here from ultimatereloader.com. If you haven't seen them already, you should check out my videos covering the Mark 7 Evolution. It is a premium, manually actuated 10-station press. I've got videos about the unboxing, setup, loading pistol, caliber conversion, loading rifle, lots of great stuff. Now the Evolution has evolved into the Apex 10. This is the very latest press from Mark 7. In this video, we're going to get it out of the box. We're going to talk about my custom machined plate that adapts it to the Ultimate Reloader bench system. We're going to get it set up. So I'm going to get this press out of the box. We'll talk about everything that's in the box and then get the press set up. So here it is. I just got the main box opened. I pulled all of the individual boxes out of the main box. I have each of the collection of components. And this, what you see here, is what you get if you order a Mark 7 Apex 10. We've got the core press assembly, a completed cartridge bin. We've got the spent primer tube. We've got a mechanical powder measure and the instruction manual. There's also an instruction manual for the press. It's not here because it wasn't available when they shipped mine. This is one of the first Apex 10s off the production line. The handle and handle installation kit. This is the Allen key for the bolt that holds down the tool head. We've got priming parts, all of the primer system parts for large and for small. This is an improvement over what you used to get with the Evolution. So we've got pickup tubes, drop tube, the shield. We've got the top assembly. This is the battery compartment and the wiring harness hookup for the sensor system if you have prime sense that you want to use. The shuttle wheel, the punch. We've also got the swaging punch, so you can swage primer pockets for small primer pockets and large primer pockets, like if you're going to swage military 223 and military 308. And then this guy here, I believe this is a part of the priming system. We'll find out in a little bit. We've got the mounting hardware, the feet that screw into the bottom of the press, the bolts that would go through your bench. We've got extra parts. This is extra case retention springs, for instance. We've got the zip ties for routing the cabling for the power for the case feeder. Another new thing for the Apex 10 is it comes standard with a hold down die. This is super helpful. You can use this over the swaging station and over the priming station, and that's one less thing that you're going to have to either improvise or buy, which is great. And then we have the mounting hardware and the column, the support column for the case feed. This is a totally new case feed system. I'm really excited about this. There's a variable speed control right on the front. There's a reverse button. If you've ever gotten things bunched up, you know a reverse button could be really, really helpful. I can't wait to try this out. The case feed plate, the power cord, and then there's also a window on the back that has thumb screws where you can take the window off and empty your cases instantly. That's right, no need to take the entire hopper off the post and then dump it or scoop them all out. And then we've got a shield. It looks like that goes in the back as well. We've got drop tubes and adapters for both large cases and small cases and all the other individual pieces that you're going to need. This goes on the press. This is the drop tube adapter for the case inserter station. So the summary is the Apex 10 is an evolution of the Evolution. There's a lot of updates and design improvements. It comes basically for the same price with the hold down die, the priming system parts for both large and small. That's another improvement. And then also each of these tool heads that you're going to buy come with a second guide rod installed. There on the Evolution was a bracket and a second guide rod that you would sort of swap over as a part of the caliber changeover. You can check that out in my caliber changeover video. All of that is included, all of the extra bits and the design improvements, much better case feed system for the same price. I call that a huge leap forward. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to finish fabricating my mounting plate for the Ultimate Reloader bench system. We'll get it bolted down to the bench, and then I will give a high-level overview of the installation and configuration process. Well, here it is. I've got the Apex 10 securely mounted to my bench via the Ultimate Reloader bench system. Now, if you've got a traditional bench and you want to drill all the way through, you can use the supplied mounting hardware, and it's going to clamp it right to your bench. I chose to make a mounting plate that sits directly on my Ultimate Reloader bench here and uses the Ultimate Reloader bench system. If you recall in the Evolution video, I went over the steel mounting plate that I made. I happen to have aluminum 1/2-inch plate on hand, so I did it with aluminum this time. I ripped it down. That's right, you can rip this on a table saw, almost like you're cutting wood. You just have to go a little bit slower. It's 12 inches wide, it's 10 inches deep, and the first thing I did on the milling machine, I mounted it in my larger Precision Matthews milling machine, the PM949 TV. So I went around all of the edges and cleaned them up, mostly to make it look nice. It's nice to take pride in your work. I then made the side cuts. These are 8 inches on center, just like the separation here for the T-tracks on my Ultimate Reloader bench. I cut these a 1/2 inch wide for 3/8 bolts, so I have a little bit of wiggle room there. Then it was a matter of drilling and tapping 4 different holes, 5 inches wide and 5 inches deep on center. And what I did was, for each mounting station here, for each hole, I pre-drilled and then went to low range, power tapped, and then went on to the next one using the DRO. It's really easy to get within about 2/10,000 of an inch, which is way more precise than we need to get here. Great to have this tooling on hand. I did have to shorten some 3/8 inch cap screws that I had on hand to get them to the perfect depth so that with the washer on top, they would have nice thread engagement in this 1/2 inch aluminum plate. Then I screwed on the feet. These just screw right into the bottom of the press casting, set it in place, and then used the bolts to clamp the press, the core press assembly down to the plate. These side screws here are holding down the plate to the bench. It's all very secure. Then it's time to mount the handle. There's a mounting block and there's a woodruff key. You press the woodruff key into place. There's 2 little set screws there. You clamp those down and then insert the handle into the handle mounting block. There's a set screw in the end. You get it adjusted how you want in terms of the adjustable length. Clamp that down. And then there's a zip tie holding the tool head down to compress the overall footprint of the press when it's in transit, the way it's packed from the factory. So I then put my hand on the handle, cut the zip tie and let it up, and that makes sure that nothing slams. And if you take a look, this is you can feel that hit, very, very solid. And the press actually feels a little bit different. I'm really curious to load some ammo on this. So now that we've got the press completely and securely mounted to the bench and we've got our handle installed, we can start to install the other components like case feed components, and we're going to do that next. The case feed system install should take no more than about 30 minutes or so. It's very straightforward, and this was very consistent in terms of the process for the Evolution. Again, I've got a detailed breakdown video on that you can watch. Couple slight changes, really mostly up here at the top where the case feed bowl is a little bit different. So there's 2 press frame brackets with 2 screws that are going to go into the press frame there with washers. And then you've got 2 spacers, 2 different length bolts, and then there's the lower pole. You're going to go through the lower pole, through the spacer, into the tapped hole in the press frame bracket in both cases on the top and on the bottom. Screw that down. Then there's a block with tapped holes between the lower pole and the upper pole. You're going to take the screws and screw them into the block. That secures the block into the lower pole, and then slide the upper pole over that and then tighten the 4 screws up there, 8 screws total there. That's going to provide a very solid backbone for the entire pole assembly. Then here's where there is a change. There's 3 screws that holds the case feed bowl to the upper pole assembly, and there's welded nuts on the back, which is nice. You're going to just remove those. They come sort of pre-threaded in hand tight from the factory. Slide the case feed bowl into place and then tighten those 3 screws down. That's going to get everything locked in nice and secure. There's also cable routing hardware that comes with the case feed system. There's these mounting blocks for the zip ties. Comes with 4 zip ties. You're going to plug in your power up here, kind of on the front of the case feed bowl, and then go ahead and route the power accordingly. That takes care of the case feed bowl installation and the pole that supports it. Then we're going to turn our attention to the rest of the drop components. The case feeder comes with drop tube assemblies for both large diameter cases and small diameter cases. I opted to install the large diameter components because I'm loading 45 ACP. And when you look at the drop tube and the drop tube mounting block, the diameter will specify accordingly which components you're going to need to use. So this is where I like the improvement here in design over what was available with the Mark 7 Evolution. There was a friction fit up at the top here for the drop tube spring assembly, and this has a rotating lock design with 2 plastic posts on the clear drop funnel. And that's going to keep that securely in place, but it's also easier to deal with. You don't have to push or pull with extreme force. The adapter block down here on the press has 2 screws. This is meant to pivot. If you loosen both screws, you can swing it out of the way to empty the cases. You're going to mount that, push the drop tube. This is the little clear tube that shows you how many cases are present down here at the bottom of the assembly, and that presses in with an O-ring that goes into the mounting block. And then the lower part of the spring assembly has another aluminum collar that's going to slide over the Lexan tube, and there's a little set screw that you can use to lock that in place. Mine has enough friction fit where I didn't need to really tighten that down much. And that's really all there is to putting together the case feed system. It's a very quick process, and with that out of our way, we can go to the next steps for press assembly. For the priming system, there's just a couple things to take care of. You're going to want to make sure that you have the correct drop tube installed. I swapped the small, which was installed, for the large, tightened down that billet red aluminum cap, and then slid the housing for the low primer sensing. It's got the battery compartment, and there's also a harness connector here if you're using an auto drive machine and prime sense. There's 2 screws that holds the entire column to the press. You're just going to line up the holes, screw those down, give them a little bit of a snug, and then test the functioning with the weighted rod to make sure that the alarm goes off. Priming system ready to roll. Next, it's on to the powder measure, which comes mostly installed. Before installing on the press, we just need to take the hopper, insert the baffle, and then press the hopper into the lower housing assembly. And then we're going to screw this into station number 6. Later, when we go on to die setups with the appropriate case in station number 6, we're just going to keep lowering the tool head and look for the drum to rotate to just about the maximum extent of its rotation when the tool head is in its bottom position, and we'll be all set up. So here's the press set up with 45 ACP dies, hold down dies, and with the powder measure dialed in. Let me go over the die station utilization that I've got so far. I don't have my powder check and I don't have my bullet feed yet. This is my baseline configuration, and I'm using a standard Lyman 45 ACP die set. I couldn't get a pro die set in time for filming this story, so that will be a future upgrade. Station number 1, case inserter. Station number 2, sizer deprimer. Station number 3, this is the included hold down die. If we were swaging, we would need that. I'm using new brass this time, so I'm not going to need that in this particular case. Station number 4, I used a 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum sizer deprimer with the decapping rod removed. This is going to be oversized. I wanted something larger than 45 in terms of the case diameter where the mouth is, and that's a hold down over the priming station. Station number 5 is our expander. Station number 6 is our powder measure. 7 and 8 are reserved for the powder check and the bullet drop. 9 is our bullet seat, and 10 is our bullet crimp. I'm using the Berry's plated bullets. These are 230 grain hybrid hollow points. Yes, HHPs, 452s. I had a completed cartridge that I used as reference for the bullet seating depth and for the crimp. I had to dial down the seater plug just a little bit more, but I've run a couple cartridges through the press. I've added some cases here, so I think it is time for some full progressive loading without that powder check and bullet feed. Let's do it. So this will be the first time I've turned on the case feeder with cases inside. Let's see how this is going to work. There's a variable speed control here. Wow, that's only halfway up, and it's going pretty good there. Looks like cases are going in the correct direction. What's interesting here is there's, instead of a micro switch, there's a different type of sensor. Hey, that's pretty cool. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and run up the press, and we'll run our first progressive batch through. Okay, powder's looking good. Stander is correct, and yay, ammo's starting to roll off the press. All the way down, all the way up. Oops, dropped a bullet. That happens. That's why we have bullet feeders. Okay, I officially think it's time for Mr. Bullet Feeder. And here we have the complete Apex 10 setup with a bullet feeder. I hung the Mr. Bullet Feeder. I already had it set up for these hybrid hollow point Berry's 230 grain bullets. I screwed in the double alpha magnetic powder check until the disc came up and activated the micro switch. It was already set up for this load, which is 5.7 grains of Hodgdon CFE pistol. Screwed in the dropper die until a stack of bullets fell. Screwed it in just a little bit more, locked the lock ring. Hanging the bullet collator and just adjusting the angle to about 45 degrees, hooking up the micro switch, running the power up, got everything up and rolling. So this is now a completely killer setup. Let's check out what we're gonna see when we start loading with a bullet feeder and a powder check. I don't have to worry about my powder charge. Almost like cheating. Sounds like we're out of primers. Well, there you have it. I would say for a fully featured progressive press setup, this has been the smoothest operation yet. Yes, it helped that it already had Mr. Bullet Feeder set up on another press for these Berry's hybrid hollow points, but everything here went without a hitch. Couple small tweaks. We're ready for full-scale ammunition production here, which is absolutely awesome. And to summarize, the Apex 10 is the evolution of the evolution. You've got an updated shuttle priming system. You've got all of the priming components for both large and small now included with the press. You've got an included hold-down die for the swaging station, and you've got a greatly enhanced case feed system. Metal bowl, it's got the quick access dump port in the back, variable speed. It's got the electronic sensor instead of the micro switch for the level control for turning the motor on and off. This press is, I would say, a great value given that you're getting all of that updated design, you're getting the extra components, the hold down die and the enhanced case feed system for the same price as what the Evolution cost. So if you're interested in this press, click on that first link in the video description. I'll have links to product pages and so on and so forth. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I would love to know what you think of the Apex 10. Are you interested in high volume reloading? Do you have a Mark 7 machine? Do you want one? Drop a comment and we'll start a discussion. Also, make sure you're subscribed with notifications because I've got a lot more Mark 7 content coming up, including a direct head-to-head comparison between the Apex 10 and the Evolution side by side. Also, links down in the video description. I'm on Patreon. I got Ultimate Reloader shirts at the Ultimate Reloader store. Any support that you can show would be most appreciated. As always, thanks for watching. Until next time, happy shooting and happy reloading.